Hello, I'm Kris.
And I'm Melody.
And welcome to Can You Hear the Pod Tonight? I didn't forget the title of our podcast that time.
Good job.
Look at me. Well, this is our podcast where we drink tea and talk about Disney movies, except Melody's the only one drinking tea this time.
That's okay. I mean, it's kind of weird to drink tea after working out at the gym.
Right, we did just go to the gym, so I'm drinking my smoothie. But I'm going to pretend it's tea. So we thought we'd get into the Christmas spirit by watching the only really close to Christmas animated Disney movie. There's no feature-length Christmas animated Disney movie.
Not?
No, not that I can think of. I guess unless you want to count the Jim Carrey version.
Yes.
That's not like proper. That's not the canon, as we've talked about.
Oh, you're always about the canon. What about that? Isn't there like a Beauty and the Beast 2 where there's a Christmas thing?
That is even less in the canon.
Oh,
we'll talk about that when hell freezes over.
Okay.
That's like one of those straight to DVD or straight to video
Well, as
sequels.
a young girl, I don't remember it very well, but I remember liking it.
Okay.
They know how to keep the kids entertained.
I'll say this. I was in a play that was basically an adaptation of that movie when I was like in probably 9th grade.
That's so
or 10th
weird
grade.
that a school would make a play about that.
It wasn't the school. It was like a children's playhouse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
and they needed like older kid actors to play the main roles.
Wait, were you the Beast?
I was the Beast.
Oh, the Beast.
Yes. Part of my costume was I had this like little bear head that I put
funny.
on that was basically just like fur around my head.
I saw a meme the other day that was like, it said something like, "Don't lie if you thought that the Beast was more attractive than whenever he turned into a human." They're like, "I liked the Beast version of him, not the human version." It's too funny.
No comment.
No comment.
Well, this is probably the closest that we have, even though this is only a 30-minute short, essentially.
26 minutes.
26 minutes. But it's so Disney. It's got Mickey, it's got Donald, it's got Scrooge McDuck, we've got Goofy,
Jiminy Cricket.
we've got all of the classic Disney characters.
The goose from Aristocats. All kinds of little like
only you would notice the
no.
goose from
There's little Easter eggs in it of different ones. I
there
also
are,
saw
yeah.
some Robin Hood characters. Were in
Yeah,
there too.
it seems like they went with characters that fit in with that Dickensian time period. So we've got like Robin Hood, characters from Robin Hood, characters from The Wind and the Willows short, characters from the Jack and the Beanstalk short. I don't know when Pinocchio is set, but I guess that sort of fits.
Was he in it? I didn't see any
Not
Pinocchio
Pinocchio.
running
No,
around.
I meant Jiminy Cricket.
Jiminy Cricket, yes.
Yeah. But yeah. So this is from 1983, and this originally played in theaters right before a reissue of The Rescuers. So The Rescuers originally came out in the 70s. They reissued it in 1983 to play in theaters again. So if you went and saw The Rescuers in theaters in 1983, you would have watched this right before. I think it was December 16th.
So it was like a little intro thing.
Right. It was like a short before you watched the feature. There was something similar to this not too long ago. I remember when I went and saw the film Coco in theaters.
Okay.
They played a Frozen short before it that was like Christmas themed.
Okay.
And I remember being so upset. So irritated because I had like you sometimes when you go to the theaters you account for the 20 minutes of trailers that's going to play before the movie, right? Well, I remember being like slightly hungry when I went to the movie, but I was like, I'll just eat afterwards. And I went, and of course I'm sitting through 20 minutes of trailers, and then this 20-minute long Frozen short starts, and I did not know this was going to happen.
So it's like 40 minutes of extra stuff before your
I was so irritated that by the time Coco started, it got into about maybe like 15 minutes of Coco, and I was just like, I'm done. And I got up and left.
Wait, you didn't even finish the movie?
No, this was during the Movie Pass days, so
okay.
I was much more cavalier about going to the movie.
So you didn't stay long enough to cry in Coco?
No, I was like, I'll catch this later. I don't think I saw the whole thing until it came out on DVD. And I ended up liking the movie, but yeah, that day I was just not feeling it.
Gotcha. I don't know if I've ever walked out of a movie before.
Oh yeah, that might be the only time I've done it.
Really?
Yeah, but that's the
of all movies.
That was the craziness of Movie Pass.
Of all movies to walk out of.
I know it wasn't even that bad of a movie, but I did not see this movie in theaters because I am not that old. But I did grow up with this on VHS, and that's how I originally saw it. It did play on television quite a bit after it came out, but
yeah, I think that's where I've seen it, was on television.
okay, but videotape, it was also on that. And I had a videotape of this growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you saw this on television, but you didn't really...
I saw it, but it was always just kind of like something that would be on in the background.
Okay.
And it never like would sit intently. I remember seeing like pieces of it, and it was a lot like kind of spookier to me when I was younger.
Yeah.
Like the scene with the doorknob, I remember seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then like just Scrooge McDuck getting tucked into his bed.
Yeah.
It was like, what a grand bed frame and curtains. Like, I want that one day.
Yeah, I think that these are just my personal feelings about A Christmas Carol. I think the most successful adaptations are the ones that don't skip on the kind of spookiness of it. Because it is a ghost story, essentially.
It is.
I'm a huge Christmas Carol fan. It's like my favorite book. Mm-hmm. You know this about me, but I'm telling the audience. Yeah, I love A Christmas Carol. It's one of my favorite stories ever. So I've seen a bunch of the adaptations. It's probably like the most adapted story of all time.
So many different ones.
It's hard to think of another story that's more adapted other than like maybe the story of Jesus.
That's what I was about to say. Like, let's not forget.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think some of the best ones are the ones that kind of maintain that spookiness. And I remember this one kind of being a little spooky even when I was a kid, but I still really enjoyed it. I have like a pretty specific memory of watching this on video like one Christmas Eve night. We would always go to my grandma's on Christmas Eve, and we would have like dinner and then open some presents from our grandparents and aunts and uncles, and then I'd come back home, and I remember watching this after we came back home one night. So special memories attached to this movie.
Did your sister watch it with you, or she's...
Probably.
It always kind of seems like when you talk about watching things, your sister just doesn't really...
Yeah, we would watch stuff together sometimes. Like, I think we both liked the Santa Claus as well. Okay. If I'm thinking of Disney movies, I think we both liked Home Alone. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we would watch movies together sometimes, but not quite as much as I would just by myself.
Yeah, she's probably like, okay, I can't keep up with your stamina of movie watching.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, anyway, so this was this was the first Mickey Mouse short in like 30 years when this originally came out. Mm. So this was 1983.
Pausing you there. When you say the first Mickey Mouse short, you mean like short? Like there could be like more feature things of Mickey Mouse?
Well,
in between those years?
No, there were no features featuring Mickey Mouse.
Oh, okay.
I don't think there really are any features with Mickey Mouse.
Oh, yeah. I guess because he's kind of like, didn't they like say in the history of like Mickey Mouse is fun, but like he's just kind of like a little character that you don't want to have to... You can't, like, form a film around him? Maybe? Yeah,
well, he was definitely, like, more popular in the 20s when he sort of first became a mascot for the character. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, he's not a particularly compelling character.
Yeah, he's just kind of like,
he's kind of a blank slate. But he kind of makes a perfect Cratchit in this story. Because Cratchit is just supposed to be, like, this good, wholesome person.
Yeah.
That you kind of feel sorry for. And I feel like Mickey kind of fits that role perfectly.
Yeah, he really does.
I think it says a lot that, you know, like a few years later, or about 10 years later, they end up making Muppet Christmas Carol with Disney. And who plays Cratchit in that one? Kermit.
Oh, yeah, Kermit is also...
Like the Mickey Mouse of the Muppets, essentially.
He is.
So it's interesting they always pick the main character to be like Kermit.
Parallel.
Right, because you can't have Mickey playing Scrooge. That wouldn't work at all.
That would be interesting.
But yeah, so really they hadn't done anything with Mickey Mouse since really 1953. And since this comes out in 1983, this is kind of like at the very tail end of the Dark Ages.
Yeah.
So, you know, they are working on... I don't know if Black Cauldron has come out at this point, but they're working on essentially like... getting together more talent in the animation department. They're working on The Great Mouse Detective. I think that's the one that comes after this, is The Great Mouse Detective.
Okay.
But yeah, a lot of like of the people who are gonna go on to like really establish the Disney Renaissance in the 90s worked on this short and started kind of on this short, like Glenn Keane, who was like a lead animator there.
Yeah.
John Lasseter, who would end up becoming like the head of Pixar. He's got a credit on this. So I think that shows in this because this is, I think, probably this might be one of the best things to come out of Disney in the 80s. And it does the story really well in just like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is really impressive for, adapting
it's
a
like
Christmas Carol.
It's like a skit almost. I feel like.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. And Christmas Carol works really well in that way, which is why Muppet Christmas Carol is also great. Yeah. We can set the stage for this. So we've got Scrooge McDuck as Ebenezer Scrooge, which I was always confused about when I was a kid. I was like, wait, was Scrooge named after the duck? It's like, is that where we get Scrooge from? Because they were both named Scrooge. And I was just confused. But apparently, obviously, Scrooge McDuck as a character is named after Scrooge.
But she fits that role perfectly, because, like...
Right. His character is basically modeled after Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yeah.
He's a money-grubbing old miser.
Yes.
With a Scottish accent.
Which is why David Tennant played his voice perfectly in that.
Yes. If you haven't seen the DuckTales reboot, it's so good. But yeah, I think this is actually the first like cartoon version of Scrooge McDuck that we see. This is before DuckTales, the cartoon. So before this, Scrooge McDuck is just like a character in the comics. But yeah, Scrooge McDuck plays Ebenezer Scrooge. We've got, of course, we talked about Mickey Mouse playing Cratchit. Donald Duck is his nephew Fred, which works perfectly because I think in the cartoons, Donald Duck is Scrooge's nephew.
Yeah, he is.
So that works out perfectly. And then for the Ghosts of Christmas Past, we've got
Jiminy Cricket.
Jiminy Cricket is the Ghost of Christmas Past. Which you said it was kind of weird seeing him in this.
Well, yeah, because
I
guess when we first started it, like, it's not like I remember everything about this from when I last saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just seeing all the duck characters and then like Mickey thrown in there. I was like, okay, of course Mickey. But then like we see Jiminy Cricket and like I didn't like it.
That's almost like a hard character from another movie.
Yeah, it felt like a crossing of different Disney universes.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So it was confusing to me at first.
Right. It was almost felt like Who Framed Roger Rabbit or something.
Yeah, exactly. It did, yeah. And then when it got to I guess it was A Christmas Past when it showed Scrooge McDuck
as a young.
Yeah, with what was the name of the girl duck?
Oh, Daisy.
Daisy, yeah. It showed all these other characters at the Christmas party, and I was like, oh, okay, like this is like they have all these different Disney characters in this thing. So. Yeah, and then they bring in for the Ghost of Christmas Present, the giant from Mickey and the Beanstalk. Yes.
And then the Ghost of Christmas Future is kind of a surprise.
Oh, yeah.
It ends up being Pete.
At first, I didn't know who it was. I was like, look at that character with a cigar. Like, this is actually more terrifying than
chomping a cigar.
With I always think of death with a scythe being but it was like, this guy looks like he could beat him up in an alley. Like, what is this Ghost of Christmas to come?
Well, I think Pete was a character that was goes way back to the old Mickey Mouse cartoons. And he was kind of like an antagonist for Mickey Mouse.
Okay.
I think we know him best from just the
Goofy movie.
Yeah, where he's Goofy's neighbor.
Yeah.
He's Goofy's jerk of a friend.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we got all of these characters, and like I said, it goes on in just a few 30 minutes. But I think it really packs a punch. It's got some funny jokes in it.
Mm-hmm.
I love he left me. Ebenezer Scrooge is talking about Jacob Marley, and he's like, he left me enough money to pay for his tombstone, and I had him buried at sea. Oh yeah, Goofy as Jacob Marley. We didn't mention that one.
Yes. Oh, you had fun laughing at the first ghost whenever they were flying over the city, and he was like, "Look down upon the city. You already do that a lot, don't you?" Or something like that.
I thought you enjoyed looking down on the world.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, roasted. Oh yeah, this apparently was the last appearance of Clarence Nash as the voice of Donald Duck. So this is the original Donald Duck.
Okay, he goes
doing
out
the voice. Goes out on a high note.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I'm saying. But yeah, I just think this is such a good. This is one of my favorite versions of A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
And complete with the fact that I teared up at this.
Yes, he did. I knew.
As soon as we see Tiny Tim.
As soon as Tiny Tim was hobbling down the stairs, Chris does this little laugh, and I'm like, oh, that's the cry laugh. Like, you crying?
Whenever I start to tear up, sometimes I just start laughing.
It's just because he was so... What did you say?
He's so endearing.
He's so endearing and, like, kind of,
so
like,
honest.
honest, but kind of, like, pathetic, and you feel sorry for him. It's like, oh, poor thing.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a great Tiny Tim. He's probably one of my favorite Tiny Tims.
Wait, so who plays Tiny Tim?
I don't know. It's just supposed to be like a little Mickey.
A little one of a Nick.
Yeah, I don't know if he has like an actual
Mickey,
name.
it's probably a nephew.
Mickey Jr.
All the the juniors of the different, like the ducks and the mice. Yeah. It's always a nephew, not like
they can't have actual children.
Yes.
Except for Goofy.
They can't we don't know how they reproduce. I don't know if they do.
Except for Goofy for some reason. Goofy's the only one who gets a son.
Yes, but he doesn't have a wife, so we don't know how the son... Who knows?
Maybe he was adopted. There's a possibility.
But he has his dad's laugh, though.
That's true.
He tries to hide it. He's embarrassed by it.
And a woman liked Goofy at some point. That's all we need to. That's all we need.
If Roxanne can like Max, then maybe Goofy was,
Yeah, maybe Goofy was cooler in his younger years. Yeah, looking up stuff about this movie, I thought that was interesting. And I also thought it was interesting just browsing the Wikipedia of this movie. Stuff I didn't know. Apparently Siskel and Ebert, the two most famous movie critics of the time, didn't like this cartoon.
Of course they didn't.
Which, to me, comes off as, like, two older guys who are being critical of, like...
Of a children's cartoon.
They're being critical because they're like, oh, this isn't the Disney I remember when I was a kid. Probably. The 1950s Disney. Yeah, I think Siskel was like, Mickey wasn't in it enough. And then Roger Ebert was like, the animation wasn't that good. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Oh my gosh.
I thought the animation is great in this.
Yeah, I was like, whenever like the little scene when Marley the ghost appears, I'm like, I wonder like what they did to make him look like all ghosty. Like if they used a watercolor or what they used to make their animation.
Probably layered animation. So, you just make it look like
different
there's
layers that are good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is like this is made by some of the most talented animators at the time who are going to go on to make like Aladdin and The Little Mermaid. So,
well, at least they didn't let.
It's kind of ridiculous.
They didn't let the review get them down.
I guess we kind of can touch a highlight on the story a little bit, though. I think we pretty much all know Christmas Carol. We've talked about it a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think that Scrooge McDuck, like the guy who's doing Scrooge McDuck, does a great job. Like, because, it's a funny character, but I think another reason why this works is that it hits the emotional highlights.
Yes.
I mean, I got a tear from me when Tiny Tim showed up.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, you tear up pretty easily in movies.
I guess so.
That's where his, like, emotions come out.
It is. They draw them out of me. I don't know what to say.
It does get moved by movies.
And then I guess it does get pretty intense like in the third act when it needs to. When the weasels are
Yes, and then it's like they
digging his grave.
Open up the grave and like this is where you belong.
The fires of hell start to come out of the coffin, which was pretty intense.
Pretty intense. I don't think they would make that today.
No, it goes by pretty quickly though. I think that's
I will say, if you're going to watch this, don't play on your phone while you watch it, because by the time you look up, it'll be over.
Yeah, I know you were on your phone at the very beginning.
Well, in the beginning, I was like,
I'll
fill out this survey really quick. And I was like, crap, I should probably wait. This is already...
It's already halfway through.
Already picking up.
I thought it was funny that when Scrooge wakes up in the morning, you were like, I can relate to that.
Oh, because, like, he was... I guess, like, the first ghost was kind of like a dream situation.
They're all, like, dreams.
Yeah, but, like, it shows him, like, waking up from, like, that nightmare of the first ghost, but he's, like, on the floor under a blanket. I was like, oh, that's totally me. Sometimes I wake up screaming, help! And I wake up, oh, where am I? Oh, yeah. Smothered by my weighted blanket.
Let me out! Let me out! Yeah, I love it in all the adaptations, but I love it in this one at the end when Scrooge is just like so giddy and happy, and he's just like wandering through the
the
streets of Christmas morning, terrifying everybody.
Yeah, and always like, he's like manically excited about that. Yes. Now he's a different person.
Yeah,
and like at first he like tries to pretend like he's mean still to
to Mickey.
Yes, to Mickey.
To Cratchit, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like too soon. Like, you don't need to, like, pretend and, like, turning into a joke and be like, haha, just kidding, I'm actually nice now. Because, like, that's terrifying. Because, like, you can't kid like that because that's how you are, so.
Right. I mean, I guess it's I don't know.
It's just funny, like, the look on their faces. They're like, oh my gosh, he's in our house.
I know.
He has a bag of something that...
That makes it all the more surprising, though, when he turns out to be like, just kidding, LOL, I'm going to give you a raise.
That's true. Or what if he was like, guess what? This whole time you've been working for me, it's all been a giant prank. Ha ha, isn't that funny? I didn't pay you enough money. Ha ha, it was just a joke, though. I've let you suffer this whole time.
That would be the long con, yeah.
Yeah, it would be awful.
Well, this is a beloved Christmas short that I think everyone should see. And I watch every year. And I'll probably...
And show it to your kids if you have kids.
Force my children to watch this.
Force Lydia, our dog child.
Yeah, I think I tried to show this to my niece and nephew one year, and I don't know, their attention spans don't last more than a few
Was
seconds.
your niece or nephew a mouse or a duck? Because apparently...
I wish.
That is unfortunate.
Yeah. Or if they could be Max, that would be great.
Yeah.
Any parting words on Mickey's Christmas Carol?
Watch it before the holidays are over. It's on Disney Plus.
Yeah, it's on Disney Plus. I remember when this came out on like Blu-ray, people were like scoffing about the transfer or whatever. But I think it looks great.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful looking movie.
Good holiday cheer. Get you some tea or hot cocoa.
That's what we should have done. We should have done hot cocoa.
Well, I don't know if I could. The tea is honestly like helping like...
You're drinking it very slowly.
It's supposed to be like a meditative experience.
Okay.
Slowly sip your tea.
Just like Christmas? Question mark?
Most people's, Christmas is usually over before you know it. That's why we should take time to consider Christmas in a slower.
And as Tiny Tim observed, drink your tea, everyone.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
I guess that's what we're going to do.
Yes.